This week we're talking about polemic games here on the Gaming Generations podcast. And what game do you want to talk about first, Javier?
Let's talk about the one that actually kind of started up the whole controversy. That would be Mortal Kombat. Remember back in, I believe, 93 or 94.
When Mortal Kombat first came out, a lot of people were very, very skeptical on the game because of all the violence and the fatalities and stuff like that. So,
yeah, not only that, they were so skeptical that I think that the ESBR rating system was created because of Mortal Kombat.
Indeed, it was created because of that. I mean, they actually did take it to Congress too, to be honest. Over here in the U.S., they had a whole big session about it. I mean, it wasn't just that game; it was also another game called Night Trap on the Sega CD. That one was pretty messed up as well.
I know.
But I think Mortal Kombat. Yeah, I think Mortal Kombat basically just took the whole cake, though.
Night Trap's that game about. That it's a film, actually. It looks like a film, but you take decisions that change the course of the story, right?
Yeah, pretty much. It's you gotta trap the burglars and blah blah blah. But if nothing actually happens, then the people inside the house will get captured or killed in some way.
I think that because video games were a little polemic back then, and the fact that it was actually a mix between a movie and a video game with murder motifs, all those elements combined are what generated the repercussion it generated back then. It was something new and something that the conservative people were really concerned about. Thus Night Trap became what it was culturally.
It's pretty funny because, back then, everyone was just, scared, that children were going to learn bad things from these video games and so on and so forth. But recently, Night Trap just had a 25th anniversary release for the PS4 and Xbox One.
Yeah.
So that's the funny thing about it.
This time passes and we barely notice time passing. But video games. Scientific studies shows that video games are a great way to develop the brain, but that notion was not common. Some people back then used to think that video games would actually do damage to people's brains for whatever reason, but that's not the case. Thankfully, it accelerates the brain. It works on our cognition, our spatial perception, and much more. But people used to think that it was only a tool for taking away the virtue of the young generation. It was the new rock and roll of the mid 80s and early 90s. That's how some people saw it. But now it's a cultural phenomenon that's widely accepted. But even nowadays, there are some games that generate polemic, especially due to new cultural issues we're facing nowadays, right? Mainly the...
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean,
yeah.
These days, they're now saying that, video gaming is now considered as a mental disorder for some reason. I don't know why they decided to say that. Probably because of all these things that have been happening. Recently we had 3 incidents that happened recently in the news, all involving gaming for some reason.
Nudists?
I believe the first one was the swatting incident.
Oh.
And then...
All right.
Yeah, if you remember, it was all over the news. The guy basically got killed by the SWAT team because...
Yeah, swatting
is... Yeah, so stupid thing over Call of Duty.
Swatting is a terrible practice.
And then the second one was... I believe in Los Angeles, a guy killed his mom.
Oh yeah.
Raging over video games. And then the recent one was a guy shot his dad in the mouth because his dad was playing video games. He was raging. So I guess basically the kid thought that, you know, his dad was probably trying to yell at him for some odd reason. But
you know, but all those problems, if you think of them, they were not generated by video games. They were
not at all.
Yeah, the people were like one case in a million gamers. There is someone out there that's mad for some reason. The game is just what he's doing at the moment, but somebody who is well with his life, just because he get mad at a game one afternoon, he's not gonna do something that extreme. It's because the whole life of the person is unbalanced. The whole mind of the person is unbalanced. And
yeah, indeed. I mean, exactly. You know, like it's just like what happened back in. I hate to bring this up, but the Columbine incident.
Oh yeah.
Over here in the U.S., they said that the people who plotted the murders for that used Doom. They actually used a WAD mapping editor to map out the whole school and then practice on there.
Wow.
Or something like that.
But then again, there's just a couple of guys who are making bad use of the technology. You know, they could have.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, video games do get blamed because, you know, it's there for us. You know, it's supposed to be there for us to be entertained, but people take it either too literally, too seriously, or, you know,
here
it's just what they do.
Here in Brazil, sometimes we have video game polemics. I remember that around 2013 or 2012, there was another guy that was a murderer, and he was not gaming the day he killed people. I think I don't remember exactly what he did, if he killed one or more people, but he was not gaming the day he did that. But just because he had a couple gaming consoles in his home, the media started talking that video games were one of the major causes for his disorder. Like, they pushed the bar, they forced this idea in very unethical, and it just doesn't make sense. The media is just being yellow journalism, you know, just fake news, just to sell stupid ideas to people.
They just want something to point their fingers at, basically.
Yeah. Just because if his neighbor had a PlayStation 2 that doesn't even work anymore, they would find a way to blame video gaming because the guy was a nut. You know, things like this get me really triggered because they're being stupid. They're blaming something that's not the real cause of the problems. There are many social and cultural problems that are the actual reason for all those people doing atrocities, you know.
It's mainly, if you think about it, it's not video games that's the problem. You know, it's just the way, you know, the people grew up in society. I mean, you know, a lot of people get picked on, a lot of people get bullied, a lot of people get abused by their parents or molested by, you know, other family members or something even worse than that, or you know, it's just going to trigger a chemical imbalance in the brain. And the first thing people think about is, oh, he's playing video games, so video games are the problem. Let's just go ahead and blame them.
Totally.
Without even actually, you know, digging even, you know, deeper than, like, you know, society or the way the lifestyle is.
Exactly. It's just, you know, media wants to sell their news, and media works like this. They come up with a problem, they find a problem, and they have to blame it on something. And if they don't find a good target to blame, they will choose another thing that's a little absurd to blame. In this case, video games. They want to blame video games occasionally because people will believe it. It's just stupid.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so let's go back to our case in point, which is Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mortal Kombat was a 2D fighting game that had digitalized people in it, and those people will fight, and then the announcer will actually, you know, tell them to finish him or her.
Yeah.
And that person will basically use a combination of buttons, and a fatality will occur. Either the person's head being ripped off with the spinal cord, or a person's heart being ripped out, or someone burned alive, so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's very graphic.
But back then, that was the big money thing. I mean, yeah, Street Fighter 2 was out at the time, and Smash TV and so on and so forth. People wanted something new, and then once Midway brought that to the table, it became a huge seller. They actually started tournaments and everything because of Mortal Kombat. But then someone complained because they found out that his or her son were playing the game on a console or whatever, and they saw these graphic things, and the first thing they're going to do is just complain about it, and
yeah.
That's basically what happened with the ESRB rating system. That's how it became the P, because of Mortal Kombat, the whole realism to it. And then there was Night Trap, and then there was another occurrence with a lady in Gilbert over here in Arizona.
I don't know
complained about her son looking up ways how to kill other dinosaurs in Primal Rage.
All right.
Okay, Primal Rage does not involve people whatsoever. It involves like claymation, computerized images of dinosaurs and primates. And back then, we weren't even invented yet. Dinosaurs and stuff like that. They always fought to death. They always ate each other. That's basically food chain stuff. But if you're gonna complain about it, where your kid's actually trying to piss on somebody in the game and stuff like that, it's like, dude, it's just a fucking game.
Come on,
they're dinosaurs. They don't know any better. They're gonna do slap them on their freaking hands. Tell them no.
Come on.
So, but because of that, the whole ESC rate, the ESRB system, that system does not help whatsoever. Basically, the ESRB system doesn't work. It's just like the movie ratings. The movie ratings do not work. The parents are going to take them to, that rated R movie, and then something, sexually explicit is going to happen,
Okay.
And they're going to see what the children are going to see with their own eyes. I mean, but, I'm not going to exactly blame the parents, but,
yeah,
children are pretty pushy these days.
I think we shouldn't blame the parents, really, just that people are different. Some people take those things more lightly than others. And
yeah, that's true.
I just think that for anything in life, you can't be too extreme. Like, you shouldn't try to shut down an entire form of culture just because some things there you don't agree with. That's how I feel about
exactly.
it. But the ESRB system doesn't work because it's each people will see each thing differently, and as I just said, some people will take some graphic things that others won't, and the ESRB system tries to generalize that into age gaps, age groups, and it's so subjective. I don't see that anything like that could work 100%.
Exactly. I mean, nothing's going to work 100% no matter what. I mean, yeah, there are some companies who actually do take the rating system very seriously. Like, for example, GameStop and EB Games. If there is a kid who's going to buy a game with their parents, the first thing they're going to ask them is, this game is rated M for mature, or 17 up and older. Are you sure your kid's actually old enough for this? Because it has, graphic violence, sexual content, and strong language.
Okay. Yeah. Now, it's
it says on the back too of the case. They actually has what it says. Strong language, so on and so forth.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's a very delicate subject because some games will try to sell on that. Some games will try to sell on that, and others won't.
Yep.
And there back then in the arcade era, when arcades were stronger than consoles, most games were marketed towards adult men. They had like pictures of attractive women in the arcade cabinets to attract attention and things like that. But nowadays games are
a
more
globalized
thing. Yeah. Nowadays games are some things that can appeal to everyone. And because of that, you know.
No.
Yeah.
You've gotta be diverse. We've got a very big diversity of products being made all the time in the world, but even so, sexuality and sexism is one thing that's being on top of everybody's heads nowadays. Developers cannot do a wrong step in that direction. For example, with Tracer's pose in Overwatch, where in the victory pose she showed her butt a little, not her naked butt or anything, but it was a bland pose that didn't really represent the character, the dynamism of the character, and because she had her back turned towards the camera, people were pointing out that it was the butt pose, like, oh.
I didn't understand that, to be honest, because that was actually kind of dumb, to be honest.
Yeah, people go over
really
the
dumb.
top
I didn't
most
really
often.
understand it at all.
Yeah, I think it was an exaggeration, overreaction, but you know.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, that's like saying, oh, like the whole controversy of, okay, it's part of my language for Overwatch fans out there. I play Overwatch, religiously with my wife. But it's like saying, May is fat, she's big. Okay, that's fine.
okay. Yeah.
But they're not going to censor her.
I don't know, man. Because it's like, again, some people react more strongly than others towards some things, and I too think that pose was nothing so drastic as everybody have to talk about it. The game is awesome, but people decided to talk about that pose for a while. Just okay, people.
Yeah, I know, it was really weird. And like just recently, people complained about Hanzo's gray hair during the winter event.
Really?
They wanted his hair to be back to his original color.
What color? Oh, come on. Come on, like people will always find a reason to complain, like it's like it's a esport on its own, complaining about elements of games.
What about Mercy's resurrection? Oh, it's too powerful, blah blah blah.
Yeah, it's like the developers have to balance the games and all, but some complaints are pertinent and others really aren't pertinent. If I were a developer and I had to deal with all kinds of complaints from the smallest things in my games, I would just say, okay, I'll send no more patches, you have the game, and have fun with it. I'm not taking any more. Just, that's it. Okay, there are many cases of games that become polemic because of cultural differences among regions on which they were released. For example, there is the case of that game. What's the name of that game again? It's the Left 4 Dead 2. On Left 4 Dead 2 cover art, there was a zombie hand making a gesture that on UK was equivalent to show the middle finger. And of course, when the artist came up with that for the cover of the game, they didn't know it. But of course, they had to change it for the UK release, or else it would diss everybody.
Yeah, I remember that. There's also the case with the Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus, I believe, or many they changed the swastikas to something else, so that way they wouldn't be how do you say, offensive?
Okay.
In a way.
Yeah.
So they had to change that.
That's understandable. That's quite understandable because there are some real world conflicts that sometimes it's not good to represent them on games, Like there was that game, I think it was a Sega plane game that was cancelled because it was a game on which you could collide with buildings, and it was on production for several years. It was concluded before 9/11, but it was due to be released some days after 9/11. They didn't know that those incidents would occur, of course, but that tragedy made them decide to cancel the game altogether, even though it was already completed before the incident. They decided not to release it because it would just be a very bad thing. It wouldn't sell. It would just be terrible for everybody.
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah. So sometimes it's not anybody's fault. It's just that some coincidences leads to things like that. I totally understand why they didn't release that plain game. I wouldn't either. I wouldn't have either. But now to wrap things up, in general, what do you think about? I think that what do you think about all those people who overreact to any little thing that has in games? Like they find something that could be considered sexist if you force it too much, if you think too hard of it. There are some people who really force the bar on things, but some complaints are like understandable and some aren't. But in general nowadays, do you think people are mostly overreacting or not overreacting on those things?
That's true.
So you think people are usually like being too complaining, or they are just being reasonably complaining nowadays?
Well, the internet did give people a voice, so that voice does have to be heard no matter what.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Now that video games are a global market and people are so different across the globe, it's natural that sometimes you will do something that you were not aware of that is bad to a group of individuals, and that's something that we can't avoid. It's something that's really hard for developers to avoid, but I think that we as gamers have to do our best as a community not to become toxic. Like sometimes we will without intention, sometimes we may offend somebody because we don't know their culture, but we must always recognize that we made a mistake and apologize. Like this, the same goes for developers, right?
Yeah.
But I think that people are too.
We also
Oh, what?
respect each other too, because if we're playing online together, there's gonna be those people gonna be very toxic, telling you,
Yeah.
to go kill yourself and delete your game.
Yeah, that's right. It's okay for people to complain about some game elements, but overall no. It's very recurrent to see people being aggressive just for the sake of it, and that's what I think should end. Both in complaining about games or in gaming online, there are always people who are willing to put out their frustration on others just using games as an excuse. That's where I think that lines shouldn't be crossed. We should all use games for enjoyment and happiness, not as an excuse to be mad at each other. And that's my conclusion for today's podcast. Do you have any other thoughts to add up, my friend?
Nope, that's all my thoughts, man. Basically, everything I said, it's all my thoughts. I mean, if people feel offended by what I said, I apologize, but it's just, it's opinionated. So yeah.
Yeah, I also apologize if I said anything that may have triggered someone out there, but that's just our views, and if you disagree, please discuss with us. An open discussion, light-hearted discussion, please. Let's all evolve with our conversations, not just throw rocks at each other, right?
Indeed, let's not be primates, let's actually be human beings and actually enjoy life.
Yeah. Unless we're playing Primal Rage, then I'll use my dinosaurs to piss on everybody.
Indeed.